There it is.
There it is.
Episode 20.
You've got to be kidding me.
That's a milestone.
That is a milestone.
We've done 20 of them.
Yeah, 20.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Steve.
Here we are. Episode 20, Whiteboard Sessions podcast. Everybody knows the rules. One of us comes up with the topic. The other one has no idea what it is.
Yeah, I'd just like to check with the audience real quick. And anybody that's seen all 20 episodes, could you just raise your hand?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for
Appreciate
tuning in.
it. Yeah,
Right.
This is live. You don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So
you got the topic today.
I do. Right. And I've been doing training and speaking for a lot of years. And I will make the joke sometimes when I start off, a keynote or a training session or something like that by talking about the 4 types of people that show up for things like that. And it strikes me that there's probably those same 4 types of people that listen into podcasts, especially the stuff that we're putting out. The first group I call the learners. Those are the people that, they're just a sponge. They're learning. They're not just learning and then they apply stuff and they actually make change and then they learn more and grow. It's great. So if you're out there and you're a learner, you know who you are. The second group are, what I affectionately call the vacationers, where it's like, maybe you should be doing something right now, but instead you're listening to this podcast. Maybe you should be doing the dishes. Maybe you should be doing your work. Maybe you should be making some phone calls, but you figure that this podcast, a little break in your day, break in your life to get away from what you're supposed to be doing. So learners, vacationers. The third group I especially relate to, those are the hostages. I spent probably most of my life, being a hostage to a lot of things because people said, well, you should really do this, or you should think about that. And you should listen to this podcast and tune in, or maybe somebody's making you listen to this. So the hostages are the ones that have to be there because somebody's requiring it or expecting them to do that. Okay.
Yep.
And if you're a hostage, you know who you are. Welcome to the program. The fourth group is the most dangerous group in the audience, most dangerous group in the world. And they're the junkies. Okay? And the junkies, similar to the learners, but not identical. The junkies love this stuff, right? They'll listen to podcasts. They'll read books. They'll go to motivational speakers. They're a regular subscriber to TED Talks. They consume this stuff on a regular basis. Learn. They get all these ideas. They talk to people. They network about this whole thing. They get all this good stuff, and then they charge back to their life and do things exactly the same way they always have. Right?
Yep.
They're just a junkie.
No changes.
Right. And so whether any of the 4 groups, they've got this adolescent behavior, which is if it feels good, do it.
Yeah.
If it feels good to be a learner, you're going to learn more. If it feels good to just take a vacation, a break, and not really do anything, if nobody's looking, that feels good, do it. Hostages, they feel good opposing everything. And then the junkies, they need to get their fix, but they're not going to make any real change.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
We want to talk about adolescence and that whole...
Yeah, that whole mindset, if it feels good, do it.
If it
I'm gonna do what I want, when I want, how I want.
Right. So I've got the 4
Okay.
kids, and John's 22, and Jessica will be 21 here in about the 15th. So in about 10 days, 11 days. William's 19, and then I've got this other bonus baby, Ellen, who's 14, in this adolescence where adolescents, their theme phrase, their catchphrase is, I want what I want when I want it.
Yeah.
And how many times do we bump into people in our work where they've got that 14-year-old mindset, only they're a grown adult?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to dive down in this hole too much, but the people tend to know what they want and why they want it, and they're just hell bent on a path. This is what I want.
Right.
And could you do it for maybe this amount?
Yeah.
I don't want to go down too far down that path, but it's kind of funny. People sometimes don't know what they want, but they think they know what they want.
Right. And if they don't get it, same thing with the adolescents. You'll get the silent treatment. They'll get angry. They'll get very rebellious or things like that. Yeah. And then you've got, I think this might be a little controversial, but there's some of the mega churches, where they preach what some call this prosperity gospel. That, God wants you to be happy. And there is a lot of debate around that type of theology or things like that. But I think a lot of us, and on our last episode, we talked a little bit about the discomfort and how challenging times can complete us, and Michael Jordan throwing wood on the fire. But that adolescent behavior many times is what gets in the way of people. They complain about their circumstances, yet they don't understand that they're actually contributing to the circumstances that they're not comfortable with.
Yep. Yeah. And it's tough to make those changes, from our situation. When we see that, we deal with the adolescent behaviors of that kind of thing. Yeah. It makes it very difficult to kind of elicit some of those changes.
Yes.
Right. And you want to be able to help people, they think they know what they want, when they want it, how they want it, and they want it now, and they want it this way. And you want to be able to help with that. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to say, okay, we get it. We know what you want. How about this way? Or maybe what you actually want is like this. And sometimes people want to do it all too.
Exactly. And so you may be thinking, okay, well, how the hell does this relate? I get what you guys are talking about, but how does this relate to what we're doing? If you're a leader and you're post-pandemic and you're coming out of some of this stuff, you may know what you want, how you want it. And your team or your peers or the organization might not be going with you, and you might get a little rebellious. You might get a little adolescent about the things because you want everybody back in the office, or maybe you want your team virtual because you see the values of that. Yeah. You can have this adolescent behavior as a leader if you're just totally focused on what you want and why you want it. Yeah. Any comments on that one?
Well, so not what I was going to say is it's steadily reminding me of an episode of Billions. You watched Billions?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, great show. I don't know how many people have watched Billions or currently are watching Billions. But that whole concept of like what you want, how you want it, when you want it, and a lot of people want it all, and sometimes that's a great thing, but sometimes you come to these kind of crossroads, right? And this particular episode that I'm thinking about, I think is season 2, maybe it's season 3, I can't remember.
Okay.
But the main character Axe is with another main character, Taylor. So Taylor is deciding if there's two things. So they're at this crossroads of going to their sister's wedding or Axe's birthday party. Yeah. And they feel compelled to go to both.
Both, yep.
And they go to Axe and they say, hey, I got this conflict, and they just signed with Axe, multi-million-dollar deal, and they didn't come from much. So there's that pull of, okay, well, now I have money, but I definitely didn't come from money. And so, long story short, a conversation ensues. They're very conscious of the environment. Yeah. They're very conscious about money, things like that. And essentially what it came down to was Axe says, do it all. You can do both. Yep. You can have it both ways. Now, obviously that takes either time, resources, money, different things. But as I relate that back to what we're talking about, that adolescent behavior of I want it, and I want it now, and I want it this way. Yeah. Sometimes there's a good reason to have it like that. And sometimes that's a really great thing to be able to do it all. You can save the world and save the environment, but you can also take that private plane ride if you need to.
Sure. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting as you're playing that out. I'm wondering who's the adolescent, because Taylor, the person in this case who's got the dilemma, is trying to be thoughtful, right? Yeah. To try to make choices that I can't have it all. Yeah. Yet the billionaire Axe is saying, do everything, do what you want to do. And, we could probably have a great debate on the adolescent behaviors of one versus the other, but there are sacrifices. And I think one of the first, I don't know if it's considered a self-help book, but the classic book, The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. I don't know if we've ever talked about that, but the Peck advocates in that book, it's delayed gratification, which many times for leaders, they know that they've gotten to be a leader in many cases because they know how to delay their own gratification. Yeah. They know how to work the compensation and recognition programs to delay other people's gratification to get the necessary work done to get what you need on the result side.
Yeah. And when we talk, the other thing too, is when we talk about sometimes these dilemmas or these, I want it now, and that's kind of getting in the way of what they should want or actually want. Yeah. There's also this aspect of they're getting in their own way of successes, or they're getting that stagnation aspect. And you have a good. Why don't you talk
self-inflicted stagnation? We coined that phrase a few weeks ago. Where in our work with clients, a lot of times we work from top to bottom, right? We will deal with ownership, we'll deal with senior leadership, the boards of directors in many cases, if there is one, right down to the frontline employee, and everybody's got a perspective on what they want or what they don't want, and things that they would change. When the one thing that they're in total control of changing is themselves. And they talk about all these external things that they would like to see different. And many times, and we're not trying to say that we're right, but in asking people questions about what they could do different. And I think a lot of times our successful discovery leads to the person coming to the conclusion, they might not say it this way, I am contributing in small or large ways to the circumstances that I'm not comfortable with.
Exactly.
And if you make some change, the situation has to change, whether it's with your team, with your boss, with your spouse, with your kids, with your family, with a neighbor. The minute that you change and do something different, that is changing the circumstance. And that's not just sitting there saying, give me what I want the way I want it, when I want it.
Yeah, you're leading by example, setting the precedents, and ultimately be contributing to changing that culture.
Right.
Just like you said, top down.
Exactly.
People are looking to these leaders and these managers for guidance sometimes in leading.
Yeah.
And if you're part of the problem, you're getting in your own way, you're getting in your team's way, you're getting in the business's way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And that's very relevant to, today's discussion about these kind of things.
Yeah. And probably, I don't know if it's a good time to wind it down, but I just think about, Ellen is the fourth kid who's been through, she was 2 and Angie died, and she watched the whole aftermath of, a single dad trying to raise 4 kids and keep his own business, which was just me going. And there was a culture created in our family. And where she's at right now, I mean, we can't escape the adolescence of growing and maturing and evolving as a human being.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, watching her learn from what's happened to other people around her, she has at 14 less adolescent behavior and tendencies in her than her 2 brothers and her older sister. And I think that speaks to culture. Now, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm just saying that learning that can happen for people when you have the right culture, you can at least reduce, and in some cases eliminate some of those adolescent tendencies of I want what I want when I want it, by setting the right tone.
And that's a good point. So like leaders, managers, if you're watching, owners, board of directors, whoever's, tuning in, even down to the frontline worker too, these are steps that you can actively take. Think about that when you're thinking about your, average daily step, both in relationships and in business.
Yeah.
Do you have an adolescent mindset when it comes to certain things? Do you feel like you're like, nope, I'm going to do it because that's what I want and how I want it, when I want it, and I'm going to do it because it feels good.
Yeah.
Well, there's certainly a time and a place for that. No doubt. There's certainly a time and a place to do it all.
Absolutely.
Like
and the last thing that I'll throw out there is that, early on, I gave in. I was a leader in the family where I gave in to that adolescent behavior. I gave the kids what they wanted, when they wanted it, how they wanted, because I felt so horrible that, here they're growing up without a mother, or so on and so forth. Well, I had some pretty incredible circumstances, but there's plenty of leaders out there that give in to people. You give in to that adolescent behavior, and then you wonder why you've got the culture that you have. You wonder why people keep asking for more and more and more. You keep giving it to them. So, as we wrap this up, I guess I'd consider, number one, are there some areas or some moments in your life where after hearing this today or thinking about it, you might have some adolescent tendencies with some relationships or work or whatever? Are you being influenced or run over by quote unquote adolescence in your life? Where do you need to set up some clear expectations, hold people more accountable for those things, and then help people? I think that Billions is a great example to facilitate a conversation where people can make some decisions based on what their core values are and
what
their choice needs to be for them.
Well, I think that's a great way to end it.
All right.
I'd mic drop if these.
But
episode 20
in the books, man.
Kind of a milestone.
Yeah,
I like it. So
thanks.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.